Hello, it's me again. I just wanted to do a quick rundown on a deadlift from my client who's the CrossFitter. That's unfair. She's a lot of other stuff, but this is what we're focusing on, trying to improve CrossFit. Now what's interesting here again is we've got pre-fatigue and we've got sort of post-fatigue, or prior to the workout, post-workout. And so what we'd expect is we'd expect this side, this initial sort of lift to be the better lift. Now if you see as the pull happens, it all looks pretty good, and then you can't really see it from the front, but there's a little bit of shift of weight one foot to another on that stand up, then a move, and then she's up there, all's good, and then the weight's back down. So the interesting bit to me is how do we get this lift? So what's the pre-preparation? So I know that a lot of stuff is concentric, but I think quite a lot of this is about just putting an extra eccentric load in there just prior to the lift to help kick everything off. Now what we're seeing is we're seeing here, let's get the old drawing tool down, we're seeing here that a little bit of a wobble here and a little bit of a wobble there, and so as you watch that lift, look, you see just a little bit of a wobble in those knees. Do you see that? If I speed it up, look, it's a little bit dancey. So you see that drop in, which kind of makes sense. If you push your knees in slightly, that'll start lengthening pretty much all the hip muscles, but certainly the glutes. It'll also start to flatten the arch, bring the tibias round, and hopefully the response to that is it all explodes out, and it's that explosion out that helps you grab that plantar flexion, and it's that plantar flexion that helps get the knees straight and starts the process with the hips finishing off at the top. And so, well, what I'm really looking for is there a lot of correction going on where you might lose some strength or power in planes, and in this there's a little bit wobbling left and right. If we move around to the back though, then we have a different there's an interesting sort of viewpoint to see here. So if you, let's just remove these lines and then let's just show you this. So what happens here, if we have a look at this lift, just have a look at what happens in terms of movement of the pelvis. So the pelvis sort of rotates left and then comes back in and rotates right and then travels up. So just at this bottom point, it's sort of the pelvis rotates, then rotates, and then travels up, and that's kind of what we're seeing. So that's our direction. So we come back here, we see that sort of rotates to the right, rotates to the left, and then travels back up on a slight diagonal to the right, which might just be technique or form, or that just might be part of the lift. Now what I'd expect, and this is not necessarily true, especially if you read the different theories on fatigue, as we mentioned before, if we move across to the other lift, now this is our fatigue lift, so we still see that sort of initial wiggle of the knees, but if we just start by looking at the start position, the start position's changed completely really. So the start position here, look, if we just move this video down, so let's, excuse me while we just lose the diagram, then what we do is, if we just look at that start position, so there it's quite a lot more upright. Now there's a change in camera angle, just slightly on the video that's been sent, but even still you can see that there's a difference. This looks like more of a square on start position, whereas this looks a little taller, but slightly sat on that left hip. Now if we move this round, if you just look at the lift seems to have less wiggle. It seems to be all coming through that left leg potentially. If we watch that again, then it's almost like there's a slight weight dominance on the on the left leg rather than the right, and that seems to continue to happen the whole way up under fatigue. When we see this one, then you see there's a little bit of shift. If we go back to just the point of starting, and again just the point of starting, if we try and have a look at the difference in see if we can get the pace and see which one looks like it's moving at the right pace. So if you look here, look, like if you'd have seen the squat, I think we have, it's minimal, but maybe we have a slightly quicker and a slightly fuller stand up in the fatigue position than we do in the fresh position, which follows on what happened last time when we were observing the squat. So if you just have a look from the back on the fatigue model, so if you see, look, we have a little bit of adjustment to start with, but the pelvis starts to move more central. Now the rotation here is not really there. There's a little bit of weight on the left, which we saw, and a little bit of drop into the left. If we move around to the other side, then, and we watch where the pelvis goes, then we see the pelvis kind of adjust more to the right. So we're switching legs, which is interesting. So as we put the weight down, it's a little bit left, and then it's almost instantly push out to the right and then back to the left to stand. And then if you ever look at this here, look, it's push onto the left, get the legs out, and now straighten up through the base. Now it's a straighter pelvis, but what you might notice is there's more turn in this femur to allow that pelvis to stay straight. So the strategy to get up here is to push this leg out, whereas the strategy to get up here is to move that pelvis across. And I'm not saying, like with the squat, I'm not saying there's anything I can say just yet, other than they are different. Now what I'd be interested in is which of these techniques picks up the heaviest of the weights, and do either of these cause pain or problem, and I don't think they do. So at this point, if you see the lift, it does seem to be a little more driven from the ankle, and then probably spine and hip, whereas you watch this movement and it seems to be more driven by that pelvis, and then the spine kicks in late, and there's not massive amounts happening at the foot and ankle. So perhaps that's the difference. Perhaps it's fatiguing in the glutes that we're seeing. Perhaps we're just seeing a change of form later on in the lift. Perhaps it's something to do with hand position. It's going to be really interesting when we see a few weeks on. I'm starting to see better technique under fatigue than I'm seeing from fresh. I wonder if that's something we have to look at in warm-up, or I wonder if that's something that we have to consider in terms of motivation. It's like, get the last one out might be a different kind of motivation to lift than let's get this first one started. And so I just want to do this as a quick blog post, just so you can track what's happening with my CrossFit trainer. Just so you know, after we've done these, then I have a good long 2-hour call, and we discuss what I've seen and start to make sense of it in terms of what happened that training session. And that's just part of sort of the private training that I deliver to people. This is one of our course directors, and so obviously I'm happy to train our course directors and help them with their training for free. That's how we work as part of our community. If you look at the bottom of this blog and you're watching this quite early, then you'll see there's all kinds of things going on. So you should have a look at our courses and just see if you want to know more about why things at the foot might affect the hip, why the hip might affect the foot, why strategies to help a natural movement of the legs might come from the spine or might come from the ankle, and that might tell us something about how we then proceed with training that session. All those kind of things. Really happy that you'll learn and you'll discuss more with other faster students if you do one of our courses. This is not a course plug though. This is about my client My client, in our discussion later today or early tomorrow, will start going through this and start looking at how these movements then relate to the lift, how we see fatigue, which is the better lift, whether there was any purpose to the technique, whether she was thinking more on the second because she was fatigued. Whatever that is, we're going to go through that and work stuff out. So keep looking out for these videos. If you'd like me to analyze one of your videos, then please email me at info@fasterglobal.com and work out how you can get me the video over, work out what you want to do, and just let me know it's okay to put that on a blog post, and I'll do the same for you, no problem. Okay, thanks for listening.